What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise live here on a Monday. It is August 8th, 2022. We are dragging ourselves through this off-season, and we got some news to talk about today. Eric, great timing for this news to break. It broke earlier today, but it surrounds Kevin Durant, hence the title of this stream. So, normally we struggle for news early on in August, but this KD saga continues and should give us content to talk about for the next, I don't know, in my opinion, month, 2 months, 3 months. This could drag on a while. So we're going to break down that situation, give our opinions on it. Eric's going to tie it back to the Blazers. We're going to talk potential destinations and why they might make sense or might not. And then we can also take some Blazer-related questions near the end of the stream and talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Eric, what's going on?
Not much. How was your beach trip?
My beach trip was good. I didn't get sunburnt. I wore like 60 SPF sunscreen because that's what I need because I burn way too easily. But also got a haircut. So I'm feeling good, man. Got the little nice 2 days out of town and clean cut now and ready to talk about business. Ready to talk about KD. How's your weekend?
My weekend was pretty good. Just worked. So,
Eric's on that grind.
Nothing too exciting.
Yep. So hopefully Taylor Packer's in here. I left the link up top just for him because Taylor Packer is in here. Yeah, I left the hair up top just for you, Taylor, because I know you appreciate that. But anyway, video potentially dropping later tonight. It's going to be like a 30-minute video. It's going to be an off-season recap, including a bunch of stream highlights. I'm really happy with how it's going to turn out. So that'll be just kind of like a recap for you guys. And I don't know. It's just I've edited it for hours already, so still got a little bit more to go on that. Anyway, Eric, man, I'll let you break this down.
All right, so we know KD, what was it, the day of free agency, requested a trade apparently from Brooklyn. And obviously we're a month and a week later and there's still no KD deal. He's still on Brooklyn. And so apparently he met with the owner today and gave them a bit of an ultimatum that it was either trade him or fire Steve Nash and Bobby Marks. And the owner then came out and said, I don't know what he said to him privately, but he came out and tweeted that the Nets front office has his full support and he's backing them, basically saying, hell no, I'm not going to did I say Bobby Marks? I meant Sean Marks if I did. I think Bobby Marks used to work for the Nets.
Yeah.
But anyways, so basically saying that he's not going to fire anyone in the front office and that, basically just putting it back into KD's court. And it's just hilarious to me that KD, of all people, is giving these ultimatums.
Yeah, dude, it's hard to even wrap my head around how mind-boggling, but also, like, not surprising this is, because it is KD, but it's like, at what point do you have some shame, man? He goes to Brooklyn, they do everything he wants. Steve Nash was supposedly a Kevin Durant guy that they hired for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, a guy that they wanted, okay? Kevin Durant...
They fired Atkinson, too, after a good season, and then shortly into the first season that KD played, they fired him 20, 30 games into the season or something.
Mm-hmm. So the coaching situation went to KD's liking, supposedly, right? Mm-hmm. But then on top of that, they signed DeAndre Jordan to what even at the time was a terrible contract, like a 4-year, $40 million contract, because KD and Kyrie wanted DeAndre Jordan. Okay, then they go out and they trade their future for James Harden. Okay, they trade Jared Allen, some future first for James Harden. Well, how does the James Harden situation play out? Apparently, James Harden isn't happy with Kyrie because Kyrie all of a sudden, it wasn't really necessarily his decision. It was his decision not to get vaccinated. But because he didn't get vaccinated, he couldn't play half of the season. And apparently that rubbed James Harden the wrong way, and James Harden wants out. So then they have to trade him. Okay? Now at the end of this season, all of a sudden, you have KD demanding for the firing of the head coach who he wanted, as well as the GM who did everything that KD wanted. And the second anything hits the fan, Kevin Durant demands a trade, and where is his preferred destination? It's an organization, a team that won 64 games last year. Give me a break. Like, I kind of get it in OKC after dealing with years of struggle, and they almost made the finals. They were up 3-1, blew a 3-1 lead. With that situation, it was more about where KD went to. I understand maybe him not wanting to play with a Russell Westbrook and whatnot, but you win your couple of championships, then you go to an organization that tries to do everything to please you, and you're still, at the end of this, demanding that the GM who did what you wanted and the coach that you wanted get fired. For what? It's ridiculous. This is right in the KD playbook, man, but this is even worse than his decision to go to Golden State, because, I mean, like, what as an organization, what are you supposed to do? You try everything to please your star player, and then he's still pulling this stuff at the end. And I've seen some people act surprised that the Brooklyn Nets owner isn't firing Steve Nash and Sean Marks and rolling with KD. But my counter to that is they've done everything that KD's wanted, and look where it's gotten them.
What happens like 6 months from now when he's not happy with the coach still again, and they're like struggling to win games, and Ben Simmons isn't playing, and he blames their GM and wants a new GM and a coach again. Like,
You're just kicking the can down the road, probably. I mean, this KD's shown that this is the type of person he is. He doesn't handle adversity well, and when adversity hits, he wants to run to the winningest team, the best team in the league. That's what he's shown. That's the type of player or person he is as a basketball player. He runs from the grind. He is the opposite of Damian Lillard. He runs from the grind. Any adversity hits, he's trying to go to the best team in the league, right? He wins a couple championships, then it's, I'm going to go to the Brooklyn Nets and prove that I can get it done without Steph Curry and prove everything wrong. But he can't handle the adversity that comes with that, obviously.
Yeah, and so people are saying in chat that Nash is a bad coach. Okay, so maybe you say, like, you want a different coach than Nash. Why do you want Marks gone, though? Like, Marks hasn't done anything to you. He's done nothing but, like, you've laid out every move that you've wanted to make. You wanted him to sign both you and Kyrie. He does that. You wanted him to sign his buddy DeAndre Jordan to a horrible contract. He does that. You wanted him to trade for fat James Harden. That blew up. What do you want Marks to do? Like, he's literally been your GM. Like, you've been able to play GM, like people say LeBron does. You've basically been able to dictate roster moves and things like that. Now you want those roster moves that guy is responsible of only because you chose a lot of them. You want that guy gone? Why? You want someone who's going to stand up to you? Because I guarantee you won't be happy with that either.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Steve Nash and Kevin Durant had a quote-unquote bond, and that was part of the reporting today, is that the bond that they had formed in the past now appears broken with the Nets. So it's not like Steve Nash wasn't a guy that Kevin Durant wasn't fond of before. That's part of the reason why he was hired, is because he had a connection to Kevin Durant. Steve Nash spent some time with the Warriors, helping out their program. I don't know if he was like officially an assistant coach or what his like designated role was, but he spent some time with the Warriors when KD was there. So this isn't a guy that KD didn't want from the jump. This is a guy who KD was fine with, comes to Brooklyn, and now all of a sudden KD can't stand him and their bond is broken. But that's the thing with KD, is wherever he is, you have bonds that end up being broken, and you can blame it on, Russell Westbrook and the way he plays. You can blame it on maybe Kenny Atkinson not being the right type of coach or temperament in a coach for him. You can blame it on other people, but at some point, what is the common denominator? And the common denominator is Kevin Durant. So this is literally the third time where bonds have been broken. There was issues with him at the end of his Golden State tenure where he and Draymond were at odds, and he was like, Kevin Durant was more isolated than ever. That's what happens with Kevin Durant and wherever he plays. Okay? And then I want to go to the winningest team. If he ends up getting traded, I think, wherever he ends up, it's probably going to be a pretty good team right away. But after a while, I would expect this to happen again the first time adversity hits.
Yep. And for those saying definitively Nash is a bad coach, right? Tell me what coach, when you trade like half your team for James Harden, and then he gets hurt, and Kyrie is also playing hurt or out of games in the playoffs, and you basically have Kevin Durant against a loaded Milwaukee team, and you almost win. Is that necessarily, can you say, like, without a doubt that that's bad coaching that they lost? I don't think that really had a lot to do with coaching, right? When you have Kyrie, Harden, and Durant, is that really anything that any kind of coach could really do other than manage the egos and stuff and hope they're healthy? And they weren't healthy. So what is he supposed to do? And then you come into this year and like KD is correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't they like the second seed or something before KD got hurt and missed a bunch of games, and then they plummeted down the standings because he missed like 30 some games or something?
Yeah.
And all this time Kyrie missed a bunch of games. Harden was in and out of the lineup and out of shape all year, not really fully himself either. So
and what was the end result of that? They ended up in a first round series against Boston, who swept them, even though Brooklyn honestly had the talent to make that a series or even win that series. They didn't get swept because of a talent issue. So yeah, maybe it has something to do with the coach, but I also think that locker room was a bit broken. Some of this is hindsight bias, but now with KD wanting out and the issues with Kyrie have seemingly fully boiled over, right? It's easy to look back on that series and say, okay, maybe Kevin Durant wasn't fully bought in as a leader, right? Like, you won 2 championships with Golden State, with Draymond, with Steph, whatever. I thought the whole point of going to Brooklyn was showing that you, as one of the best players of our generation, could shine through in a tougher situation and lead your team to a championship. Here's the thing, good leaders, Eric, they shine when adversity hits.
Right. And he's
not a leader.
That's why I wanted to tie it back to the Blazers, is because every time one of these things happens with a guy like KD, I am even more grateful and thankful that we have one Damian Lillard as our franchise guy. He's not pulling this crap. He's not doing this stuff. And this is exactly why you don't trade Damian Lillard, because that guy has earned our respect and loyalty back, unlike some of these clowns who constantly just, it's their own fault and they blame everyone but themselves for their situations they're in. And it's complete crap. And this is why I will never turn on Dame as long as he wants to be here. And even if in the future he wants to leave, I will still respect him because he just is different, man. And that's why I will never disrespect him back by saying that we should trade him or get the most value for him. Who cares? I will defend that guy, and he can be a Blazer as long as he wants.
Yep.
And honestly, with KD, man, the Warriors won a title without him. They should have won. Obviously, they were up 3-1 the year before he came there. Then he wins like the 2 easiest titles in NBA history, outside of when there was like 8 teams in the league, maybe some of the old Celtics teams. And then he's hurt for the playoffs. They freaking almost win the championship without him even playing. He comes back and gets hurt right away, and he missed a bunch of the games leading up to that. He didn't play at all in the series with Portland when they swept us. So they took the Raptors to 6 games on a team that had several injuries and was kind of a shell of the past four years before that. And so, like, they almost won a title even with him being hurt and not even playing in the playoffs that much. So, like, I don't want to hear this crap that, like, he was finals MVP. Yeah, because dude, you're playing with Curry and Thompson and Green. You can any good player in the history of the NBA would have thrived in those circumstances, man. It would have been so easy for any player that was as good as KD to just sit there and score points and do whatever you want, man.
The perfect rebuttal for that was who was finals MVP for the Warriors before Kevin Durant.
Yeah, what's Iguodala?
Yeah, it was Andre Iguodala, man.
Yeah.
So like Prime Iggy was underrated, man. Prime Iggy was nice, but Warriors Iggy was a role player, and he wins finals MVP, man. Like, yeah, it doesn't mean anything to me. Finals MVP doesn't mean anything to me. It's just like, okay, maybe Steve Nash isn't a good coach, but that's the thing with these guys is it's like there's always an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
There's always an excuse for the way that they go about things, okay? And sure, maybe that excuse exists for Nash where he just isn't head coach caliber, okay? But there is no excuse. There is no excuse for wanting Sean Marks gone. What is the excuse for wanting Sean Marks gone? It's the Kyrie situation. But you can't do the things that Kyrie has done and not be fully committed to your team and then expect a 4 or 5 year max contract at his age. Like, he had a player option for next year. If anything, it's a situation where, like, okay, you have your player option, you accepted it. This is the year where you come in and prove that you can still consistently be the Kyrie Irving we see in flashes since, there's times where he doesn't want to play games and then the whole vaccination issue last year, right? Like, come in and prove that you will consistently show up to work and get the job done. That's what will get you a max contract. Instead, I assume that's why Kevin Durant wants Sean Marks gone, but it's so unreasonable to expect anything different from any front office. So there is absolutely no excuse for Kevin Durant to demand that Sean Marks is fired when Sean Marks has done everything that Kevin Durant has wanted. There's no excuse for it.
Mm-hmm. And, okay, when it comes to stars and stuff too, this is the other thing about Dame is let's say we traded Dame for like 5 firsts, right? And we hit on 2 stars with 5 of those picks, right? And we get like really, really elite players. Chances are they're going to be more like KD and Kyrie than Giannis and Dame, They're going to be those type of players. The players who want to stay in one small market and stuff like that are very rare. So, like, I'd rather try and win when we have one of those guys than to get some of these diva players that are just waiting until their contract's over so they can pull this crap.
Yep. And let's talk trade market, Eric.
Well, before that too, I want to make one more point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the whole GM thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone had or should have been complaining about their GM for years and maybe requested that he be fired, it should have been Dame, right? Like, Dame had to deal with O'Shea for 9 years or something, or 9.5 years. And he was loyal to Stotts, even though, like, he might have been a little blinded there, but he was loyal enough to not do that. And so, like, Dame didn't even throw those 2 guys under the bus. Like, I can't imagine him being in a situation where he got to basically choose the players on the roster, and he would be like, oh, I blame I blame Joe Cronin because he traded for Jeremy Grant when I requested that he traded for Jeremy Grant. Like Dame has the wherewithal and the self-awareness to like be like, oh, that's my bad if it didn't work out. Like I'm responsible for that, not you. And like I requested that you made this move or whatever. That was my guy.
Yeah.
That's my bad. He wouldn't be like, oh, you know what? Jeremy Grant sucks. Why did you trade for him, Cronin, you idiot? Like, Jody, you need to fire Cronin because he traded for Jeremy Grant. Like, no, man. Like, you're the one whining to get those players on your team. It's so dumb.
Own your own decisions.
Right.
Like, you can't, yeah, I mean, at some point, if an organization is doing everything you want, at some point you should be like, you should hold yourself accountable for what you wanted instead of just running when it plays out. It just frustrates me, pisses me off, man.
Mac has a good point. Yeah, like LeBron blaming, like he makes the Lakers trade for Westbrook, and now he's mad that they have Westbrook and he's still on the team. It's like, God, these divas are so crazy.
Yeah,
and they're so good. That's what's the frustrating part is KD could possibly be good enough to win a chip without all this stuff like drama and things like that. But yeah, it sours me towards them when they're like that.
Yeah. See, that's why I respect Giannis a ton. That's why Giannis is one of my favorite non-Blazers in the league, man. Mm-hmm. He's in Milwaukee of all places,
yep.
Right? And yeah, they traded for Drew Holiday, cool, but that's, it's not a guy who's been an all-star recently or anything, right? What does Giannis do? He goes out and he gets the job done and leads a small market team who hadn't had any success in like the past, a decade and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And he leads them with Chris Middleton as number 2 and Drew Holiday as his number 3. He leads them to a championship. Okay? KD ain't leading that team to a championship because that team is not good enough to overcome adversity with a leader who himself can't lead a team through adversity.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, Brooklyn and Milwaukee came down to the wire and came down to an inch, but Brooklyn was a far more talented team. You're running KD, Kyrie, and James Harden out there with some okay role players to boot against Giannis, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday. Giannis gets the job done after struggling. They got demolished in the second round in the bubble the year before. Giannis could have sat there and been a diva and run from the adversity and gone, I don't know, maybe the Golden State Warriors could have traded for him. And if the Golden State Warriors would have traded for him, Giannis would have a championship with Golden State. But him winning a championship for Milwaukee is always going to be more respected.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always going to look better on his legacy.
Yep.
So that's the difference between KD's and Giannis's.
And he was in a contract the year prior, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
if he didn't sign that extension, so he could have possibly used that to say, because that's basically what Kyrie did this year. Like, I'm gonna opt out if it doesn't go my way this year, type of thing. So, Giannis definitely could have held that over Milwaukee's head, but he chose to sign the extension and allow them to make moves knowing that he is locked in and going to be there instead of all this, it requested a trade or is he going to be wanting out in a year or whatever. He's like, no, I'm here. And that helps organizations. And I like it.
And I don't want to make this seem like I'm against player empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I respect players of a certain character more than others. And you can tell their character based on the moves that they make with their player empowerment, right? Like, mm-hmm. That's the thing with KD. KD's free. KD should have the option to, go to the front office and demand a trade. And when his contract's up, he should be able to go wherever he wants, right? And sign for whatever he wants between the minimum and the maximum contract, right? Not against any of that. That's how it should be. But in terms of having an opinion on that, I'm always going to respect the guys more who try and take the challenge head on compared to creating the challenge for themselves because everything leading up to it was what they wanted themselves and then running from that challenge they created.
Mm-hmm. Well, the empowerment was getting everyone he wanted on Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
He got to go there as a free agent. He got to play with his friend Kyrie. ultimately empowerment is what allowed Harden to basically force his way there. And then, they empowerment allowed them to sign DeAndre Jordan and stuff. So the whole team was set up because of that empowerment. And I think Taylor Packard puts it well in chat. He says, KD went to Brooklyn to prove everyone wrong. Instead, he's proving everyone right. And that's exactly right. Because he went there. It was going to be like, see, I can win at a team that was my team from the beginning. There was no question of me going to a good team and we only won because I went to a good team. Now you could maybe question them getting Kyrie and Harden on top of that. But I think people would still give him credit for winning a ring if he won one in Brooklyn because he did it from the ground up. And that would have been much more respectful than what he's doing now and what he did with Golden State, in my opinion.
Yep. Brady says you shouldn't be able to have a 4-year contract signed and agreed to and then want out when it gets tough. You signed the contract. And here's the thing is you can never stop players from requesting trades. Mm-hmm. But if you're an organization, you cannot let yourself be out-leveraged by a player with 4 years left on his contract. There's absolutely no reason, even though Kevin Durant is playing hardball, he's still under a 4-year contract. And there's a lot of people out there that say the Nets just need to get rid of him and can't, need to trade him for less than they expect and yada, yada, yada. That's what everybody said about Daryl Morey, including me.
Yeah,
I said that about Daryl Morey. And then he turned Ben Simmons into James Harden. Okay, so since then, that's kind of changed my viewpoint a little bit, right? It's do we not remember that this time last year we were saying that about Ben Simmons with Daryl Morey? Apparently, a lot of people forget that. But then he's on a 4-year contract. And you have a superstar on a 4-year contract, no matter how much he says, oh, I hate everybody there, you need to fire everybody, shoot, you need to sell the team if you want me to come back. He can say whatever he wants. It's still Kevin Durant on a 4-year contract. And that's where the trade value lies. Whatever team trades for him, okay, even if they're not confident KD wants to be there, they can be confident because KD's on a 4-year contract. And I highly, highly doubt that if it's a good team trading for Kevin Durant decides to hold out and give up $40+ million and ruin his legacy even further because he didn't get to go to the 64-win team or Miami. So I don't think this is a situation in everything that broke today. I don't think it makes a difference, Eric.
Nope.
Because the only way it was going to make a difference is if how long this was taking and how hopeless it seemed for KD going to where he wants to go. The only thing that I thought might change out of this is if KD was like, okay, well, I'm willing to, say that I like more teams, or I'm willing to go more places, or I'm willing to come back.
Yeah.
Right?
To me, the coming back was the only thing. If he said, okay, I'll give it a few months or something,
Yeah, the status quo has been KD's wanted to trade. KD's saying, trade me, or you need to fire the GM and head coach doesn't change anything. In the ownership saying, we're going to roll with the GM and head coach doesn't change anything. Okay? It's not going to lead to KD getting traded faster because here's the thing. And before this, guys, I watched Suns Valley podcast. They're Suns fans, and they did a whole podcast on this KD thing, and I disagreed with a lot that was said in there, to say the least. Shout out to those guys, but I disagreed with a lot. First off, let me make a side point, okay? This is going to be a little bit of a ramble, but first off, when you're this close to a situation as a fan base, it's going to be hard to truly be objective. My problem with them is a lot of times they'll say anything that's a disagreement with them means that it's just haters, right? But when you're a fan of a team and you have a chance at a generational player, you are psychologically going to try and search for justification of why it will happen, okay? And we saw this to a lesser extent, but we've seen this with Blazers fans, a lot of Blazers fans, where going into the offseason, they thought that they had a legitimate chance at Zach LaVine and DeAndre Ayton and all sorts of stuff and $60 million of cap space and whatnot. Now, me and Derek dispelled that, but a lot of Blazer fans as Blazer fans, overestimated their chances to having a great offseason. Okay, because there is obviously bias there as a fan, right? That's the thing with some Suns fans, man, is they're going to be biased for the Suns. I totally get that. Every fan base, it's that way. Shoot, it's probably been that way with me and you in regards to certain situations in the past, okay? Here's the thing. One of the things that was said on that stream was that this could speed up the process of Kevin Durant getting traded. I don't think that's the case, because when Brooklyn ownership stands behind Sean Marks, that means Sean Marks, and especially apparently they're looking at extending his contract, that means that Sean Marks will be able to handle this situation however he thinks is best. Okay? And Sean Marks isn't going to kneecap himself because KD says he wants him fired. Sean Marks is going to do what's best for himself and the organization that he's a part of, no matter what KD says. And if it makes sense to hang on to KD and wait until the trade deadline next year, he's going to do that. Kevin Durant saying, "I'll return if you fire him," isn't going to make Sean Marks speed things up. Okay? So I don't think this changes anything at all. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I guess the only way it changes things is if that ultimatum becomes so, like, unbearable, like, but, I mean, I don't think they have a problem if KD just wants to sit out until the trade either, because I think that tarnishes him way more than it doesn't hurt his value at all, but it just hurts him, like, legacy-wise, right? So I agree with you. I don't think it changes a lot. But yeah, so someone said, like, do you think, or let me get this exact, it was Taylor Packer again. Do you think sometimes it might be more beneficial to just not give players everything they want? In the end, they usually just want to win. Here's the problem. If Brooklyn just trades KD to the place he wants to go, or they trade him to, or they keep him and don't trade him, either way, they're not winning a title anytime soon, right? So, like, from their perspective, I mean, making him happy and keeping him and Kyrie and maybe, you know, you get a healthy Ben Simmons back, like, that's their only real path to not probably tearing it completely down and rebuilding and hoping that in, like, 5 years they're as good or have a chance to be better than they were now, which would be very difficult considering the amount of talent on that team. So, like, the team's kind of screwed where they have to kind of give in to him, but they also, if they don't give in, they're kind of screwed too. So I don't think it's necessarily about not giving in, but some of these teams, like, you're forced to, maybe not in this situation, since they could play hardball for 4 years if they really, really wanted to put their foot down, but that won't help them win at all. So I don't really know what to do in this situation, and I think sometimes giving in might be the worst of several evils. So unlike you, I think the Suns package is somewhat decent, but yeah, I still think there's other teams that can offer better packages that I would take over that. But
here's the thing. If you're ever in a position where you have to accept that Suns package, there's no way it should be this offseason. Yeah. No way. Okay? 4 years left on his contract. If KD's going to sit out, he's going to be giving up almost $1 million a week. Okay? We've seen teams in other sports play hardball with players that want to trade demand, and then all of a sudden, you know, the players back in their team's uniform. I mean, we saw it this offseason. It's a different situation because it's part of a contract negotiation, but Deebo Samuel asked out from San Francisco for the 49ers, and I was telling everybody I expect him to be back. And people were saying, oh, I mean, you're a 49ers fan too, Eric, so you know how this was. Yeah. But we've seen trade demands before, and stuff seem like it gets really, really bad, and then fences are mended and whatnot. Now, I am less confident in that happening after this meeting, but with KD being on a 4-year contract, there is nothing stopping Brooklyn from waiting until the trade deadline when the Phoenix Suns could be leveraged to give up more because DeAndre Ayton will be tradable. That's the thing. And DeAndre Ayton was a free agent, so it was hard to work out a trade where DeAndre Ayton goes to maybe a third team and you get the value you want because DeAndre Ayton would have to want to sign there. Now, DeAndre Ayton has a no trade clause, which could cloud things, but there's only room to gain. I highly doubt that if the Brooklyn Nets hang on to KD and he plays hardball and doesn't play, that the Suns package would get worse at the trade deadline. I highly doubt that. If anything, it'll get better because at that point, they're probably in position where like, okay, we'll send DeAndre Ayton to said third team for KD.
Right.
Okay? And there will be other teams that become available in the market as well. Portland could be one of those teams. As at the trade deadline, Anthony Simons will be tradable, which is a good young prospect. And if Anthony Simons breaks out even more next year, that might be the best player that they're getting offered outside of potentially Jaylen Brown. Okay, if Boston's struggling next year, they struggled to start this past year. Obviously, they turned that around. I expect them to continue their elite play that got them to the finals. But if they're struggling at all, they're going to be willing to give up a little bit more. There's going to be more players tradable at the deadline than there are right now. And you're probably going to be able to leverage a team being a little bit desperate because their season isn't going how it wants in order to get the most back. So it makes absolutely no sense for the Brooklyn Nets to settle for Mikal Bridges in first-round picks.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you could probably get like 3 firsts or something for Ayton once he becomes tradable. So you could add, maybe you get 7 firsts total, because if they trade KD, I don't really see them wanting, I mean, it could be wrong, but Ayton's contract. So yeah, you could probably get to 7 first-round picks, and you could maybe even trade Mikal Bridges for a couple more too. So you could probably get maybe 9 picks and expiring contracts or something, and just do a whole rebuild. So I agree with you. And
yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to rant about a comment. You can finish. I'm just antsy to rant about a comment.
Go ahead.
So here's my problem with Suns fans, all right? I mean, I'm just going to say it's Gabe in chat right now, and I just watched his stream, man.
Hey, Gabe.
The problem I have, man, is they don't want to listen to what we're saying because it's not pro-Suns narrative, right? And that's why they sit here and instead of actually listening to what we said or what we're saying, it's you guys are just haters and look how it always comes back like he should go to Portland. Bro, I don't care for KD at all. In case you haven't figured this out yet, I don't care for KD. I just spent the first 20 minutes of the stream ranting about him, right? Obviously, if it would help Dame win a championship, even if it's a guy like KD, I would probably be down for it because I really want Dame to win, but I don't care for KD. I don't really care if he comes here, man. Portland is an example of one team that could give up more at the deadline, okay? There could be a bunch of other teams out there. Obviously, I know the Portland Trailblazers situation the best, so it makes the most sense that I would use them as an example of a team that would be able to trade in Anthony Simons, who they can't currently trade right now. Okay? You're going to have more teams that will have players like an Anthony Simons that can't be traded right now because they just signed a contract that will then be tradable around the trade deadline. Okay? You're going to have more teams in play that you can leverage against each other if you're Brooklyn, which is why it makes no sense for the Nets to sit here and rush for a package that isn't that good. Okay? Eric likes the Suns package a little better than me, but it's still not the type of package where you're like, oh, we got to accept that because there's no way we don't get something better at the trade deadline. Okay? So teams, we've seen it in the past year, man. Teams sit and wait for something better to become available when they feel like they're not getting enough asset value back for a player, okay? Morey just did that with Ben Simmons, okay? Somebody who was terrible in the playoffs and had question marks about if he even wanted to play, and he leveraged him into a superstar. So it's like I don't understand why people don't look at that situation and think that the Nets, with a true superstar, aren't going to do the same. And they're just going to settle for a package that's worse than the Sixers got for Ben Simmons.
Yeah, and well, here's the other thing too. It might actually be better for some of these teams, Suns included, to not have KD play for part of the season and be, healthy for a playoff run, end of season run, versus him playing or being on a team right now, a new team, and possibly getting hurt because, he's gotten hurt several times over the last few years. So, I don't think it's, if I'm looking at it from Brooklyn's point of view, I know what offers are on the table. I completely 100% agree that those same offers, at the very least, will be there through the trade deadline, if not through next offseason when you know what picks teams have and stuff, and maybe a team makes a trade that gets a lottery pick like we almost did last year. We ended up with the 7th and 8th pick like we should have, right? Then a team like that might have a lot more ammo to trade for Kevin Durant than just taking a bunch of future picks that you have no idea what range they're going to be in or if they're even going to be good or not. But the Suns can trade one more first than we can during this season. That would be the only advantage they have in my mind.
Yeah, and here's the thing with Brooklyn as well. Okay, this is all logic based. Logically, do you think the Nets would want to set the precedent that somebody who just signed a 4-year contract extension could then, before that extension even starts, with 4 years left on his contract, just say, "Oh, I want to be here," and then they trade him for pennies on the dollar to send him to the place he wants to go? Do you think the Nets would want to set that precedent that a superstar player could hold a franchise hostage on that, despite a franchise having 4 years of team control left?
Yeah, and demand that the owner or the GM and the coach are fired and all that on top of it.
Yeah. Here's the thing too. If Sean Marks is calling the shots and KD is trying to get him fired, I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Marks wanted to spike KD a little bit. Mm-hmm. If there's equal package from Phoenix and an equal package from Boston, if they're similar packages, do you think Sean Marks is going to say, "Okay, KD, we'll send you to where you want to go, despite you wanting to fire me for no reason after I've done everything you've wanted"?
Heck, trade him to Sacramento or something, right?
I mean, at this point,
yeah. Like,
here's the thing: if the package isn't good enough, despite them not being able to get back, some assets, if it's not enough assets, I wouldn't be shocked if they just sit here and hold on to them for a year. I mean, then the Sixers basically did that with Simmons. What's stopping the Nets from saying, "Oh, well, we're holding on to you until we get something better back," and then potentially holding on to KD for 2 years? If the alternative is settling for pennies on the dollar, which don't really make a difference, I mean, this could drag out a lot longer than people think.
Well, I mean, Kyrie basically sat out. It'd be the same thing, right? Almost till the trade deadline or right around the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. So like they already used one of their stars sitting out most of the year anyway. So is it really that much different than what happened last year? Especially once KD went down and they had just Harden on one leg. But Saltius says, yeah, he'll go to the Celtics and beat them for 4 years. Smart. Well, here's the deal. If the Nets are trading Kevin Durant or end up trading him, I mean, yeah, they tried to get both Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. Those type of packages aren't available, and they're not going to necessarily be good anytime soon. Except for if they trade with Boston, Boston actually has some pieces that when you mix with the players that are currently on Brooklyn might be interesting. And Durant and Tatum are, for how good both those players are, they are very similar players. So I don't know if that necessarily works well if they have to trade half their team for Durant. Like who knows if they're even better than last year in that scenario. So like I don't think it's a guarantee that Boston is better if they trade a bunch of their good players for Kevin Durant, and I don't think Brooklyn is worried about who's going to be better than them if they trade KD, because they're probably looking at it for a couple years down the road.
If they trade KD to Phoenix, the Nets aren't beating the Celtics in the next 4 years. Tatum is young. Jaylen Brown is young. They have a young roster that just made the NBA Finals. And the logic is, apparently, from some Suns fans, that the Brooklyn Nets would say no to the best trade package out there because they'd be worried about not beating the Celtics the next 4 years, despite if they trade Kevin Durant, they're probably not beating the Celtics the next 4 years. The logic just makes no sense to me, man. Like, they're going to trade Kevin Durant for Mikal Bridges just so they might have a chance of beating the Celtics in the next 4 years. They're not going to if they do that. There's no chance. So they're just going to take the best trade package available. When you are in a position like you are with the Brooklyn Nets, you can't worry about, like, oh, well, we need to beat this team in an Eastern Conference Finals 3 years from now. They just need to worry about getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, let alone who they'd have to face. If they trade KD, they're a play-in caliber team unless they get Jaylen Brown. If they get Mikal Bridges and first-round picks, they are a play-in caliber team, maybe 11th, 12th seed for the next 3 years. If they get Jaylen Brown, they would probably be like maybe a 6th or 7th seed, have a chance of being in the playoffs. So they're going to say no to potentially being a playoff team in order to be a potential play-in team because they're worried about beating the Boston Celtics. How does that make any sense? I don't understand that, man. Anyway, I think you're muted, Eric.
Yeah, my daughter came in, so I muted for a second. Yeah,
just wanted to remind you. I didn't know if you remembered, but Tate plays $2 dono. He says, "Do you guys? This could be a CBA talk." I'm kind of confused what you mean, Tate plays. Thank you for the $2 dono. If you could clarify what you mean by that, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you for the dono.
Maybe he's saying there's a CBA deal up soon, like maybe this will be a big talking point for that. And if that's the question, I completely agree with that this is probably going to be one of the issues talking about. But I mean, if you're the NBA, yes, you don't want a star player with 4 years left on his deal to request out. But I mean, how do you prevent it other than just basically voiding his contract? But that gives him what he wants. So, I mean, you could suspend him. I don't know. Yeah, there's not much you can do about it. It's just how you react to it when it happens, I guess.
Yep, absolutely. Anyway, we were talking about Boston. I mean, Jaylen Brown is the best potential trade asset back because A, he's young, B, he's already a proven all-star. My whole thing with this Kevin Durant trade is when you're trading a superstar caliber player, even when stuff hits the fan, if you have a superstar caliber player with 4 years of team control left, right, and he was healthy to end last year, you have to get back a package that you think gives you a likely chance of getting an all-star. Okay? The problem is the Phoenix Suns package doesn't quite do that. If you get back Jaylen Brown, you get back an all-star who's also young. That's why I think the Celtics package has the lead there. Now, we can get into, do the Celtics do that? Do they not? There's been reports that they were willing to do it with Jaylen Brown. There's been reports that they aren't. You know, there's always going to be a bunch of smoke around that. The only thing I can do to sort through that smoke is to say what would be the better package. And right now, it would be Jaylen Brown.
Gabe says Celtics are saying we're not trading Jaylen Brown, and you're saying they will. I guess we're just supposed to believe everything anyone's ever said because nothing has ever happened. Like, oh, Toronto saying or telling DeMar DeRozan they're not trading him, and then trading him a week later when Kawhi Leonard becomes available and stuff like that. It never happens, so we don't have to worry about that. They said he's not going to be traded, so we should just take it 100%.
And it's like there's been conflicting reports on that too. But that goes back to my initial point that as a Suns fan, you are going to search and put stock in the information that you want to because you think you have a legitimate chance at KD. So if there's conflicting reports where one report says the Celtics are willing to trade Jaylen Brown, but then the other report says the Celtics aren't willing to trade Jaylen Brown, as a Suns fan, what are you going to put more stock in? Like, you're going to put more stock in the report that says that Jaylen Brown isn't on the table because that gives you a better chance as a Suns fan to get KD.
Well, like Trevin says, I mean, Shams reported that they did offer a package with Jaylen Brown in it, so that kind of contradicts that they're not trading him.
But we shouldn't believe Shams.
But once that comes out, I mean, it's pretty obvious that you have, when the trade doesn't get done, you have to kind of play PR and tell Jaylen Brown that he's not being traded, right? Or that you're not looking to trade him, because otherwise he's going to be like, what the heck, man? Like, why are you trying to get rid of me?
Yep. So that's the thing. Shams reported that it would. Gabe says check the Celtics website, which I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. But
oh, they probably have a picture of Jaylen Brown. They're for sure not trading.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm not trying to be hard on Gabe, but I've been called a hater as if I'm just like, and I've apparently just have all this copium or something, and it's all about like how I want KD on Portland, so therefore I'm downplaying the Suns' odds. And like basically Gabe for a while now has just been saying that I'm thinking about this emotionally. Okay, I'm not thinking about this emotionally. I try and think about everything logically, even with my own team. I was downplaying my own team's chances at certain guys all off season long. So to think that I would have a narrative about the Phoenix Suns getting KD just based on bias and emotion is just so silly to me. I thought Gabe knew me better than that, but apparently not. Yeah, so it gets a little frustrating just trying to speak about things logically and just constantly being called a hater. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
So I went to the Boston Celtics official page. There's a series on Grant Williams. There is an article about Bill Russell, who passed away, R.I.P., and a team statement on Bill Russell. Not sure where it definitively says over their dead body they're not trading Jaylen Brown, and even if they did say that, you guys are choosing not to listen to what we say.
Yeah, Gabe says, I just know you don't want him in a Suns uni. You can separate what you want from what you think. If you try and think logically, you can think logically despite what you want. I want frickin' Giannis in a Blazers uniform. I want Giannis in a Blazer uniform. That doesn't mean I'm sitting here thinking that the Blazers are going to get Giannis. I've consistently tried to, and I think I've succeeded in separating what I want from what I think will happen.
Don't go to that website. Gabe's trying to give everyone a virus or something. I don't know, man.
Celtics.org compared to I don't know.
They're all of a sudden the Boston Celtics are a non-profit, I guess, and
what?
I don't know, man.
Now try Celtics.edu. I mean, yeah, dude, like I will admit, like I don't really want to see KD in the West in general, man. Like the West is stacked, but also I'm higher on the Suns than you are going into next year, and I think with or without KD that the Suns are going to be better than Portland. So stop making it out like I'm just like over emotionally thinking about stuff, man.
All right, here's the deal, though. I think a little bit of it is, I mean, Flex is kind of, I know you might not want to comment on this, so I'll do it for you. Like, the way he's acted this summer has been a little bit of a little annoying to non-Suns fans, and I'm sure even some Suns fans. So it's like there's there isn't a single person who knows for sure that KD is going to be a Sun or any team right now. Like it's still up in the air. So it's just a case where I think if he like tries to, pun intended, flex that he was right the whole time and all this stuff, I think that would be a little annoying. So I think a lot of non-Suns fans are turned off by that whole premise that we'd have to listen to him for the be like completely unbearable if that trade does happen. So honestly, like that does play into it a little bit. And then on top of that, you know, the Blazers are obviously in the West, and the Suns would be pretty good if they managed to trade just Mikal and Cam Johnson and whoever else filler-wise for him. So I'd hate to see that team because that would be a scary team. So I also don't want that to happen. But like, it's more than that. It's like we're talking about like trade packages, and we have Suns fans that just act like their package and their team and their situation is so much better than any other team, and like it's just destiny that he's going to be there. And I'm sorry, but that does get kind of old that you think that your situation is that great that like everyone's just dying to go there, and it doesn't really matter that KD wants to be there and that's his number one destination because he has 4 years left on his contract. So it's just a plethora of things all mixed together that I mean, it's more so just like the fact that some of you Suns fans, I'm not calling out anyone particular, but it's almost like you guys are entitled to have Kevin Durant, and that's just not the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you said that pretty well. In regards to flex, I mean, I'll say this. If there was negative news in regards to KD like not going to end up on the Suns after everything that Flex has reported, do we really think he'd want to share that, or would he actually share that? That is my question. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe he would, but if there was negative news for the Suns, would he share that right now? I don't know. Okay, but then the other thing is, here's the thing with sources, man, is a lot of people that aren't like main insider guys will have some correct information that they hear from a source, and they'll have some wrong information that they hear from sources. Okay? Like, Eric, you nailed it with the Jeremy Grant thing, right? But I'm sure in the past you've had a source give you information that didn't end up being correct. That's probably the case for Flex. And the problem is I think too many people act like everything he says is bound to 100% be correct, to the point that they will argue what guys with a better track record like a Shams says.
Mm-hmm. And anytime anything bad happens, oh, don't worry, this isn't a bad thing. Like, you know, Ayton signs with Indiana. This has no effect on any KD trade. Yeah, it does, man. It means they can't sign and trade Ayton to another team and get some more assets for that deal.
The thing that bugged me about that was that didn't affect a KD trade, but earlier, like only a few days before that, the whole thing that was supposed to happen was Ayton was supposed to go to the Jazz, Donovan Mitchell was supposed to go to the Nets, and that was supposed to land the Suns KD, right? Like, that was the package that was basically had a 99% chance of happening or whatever. But then all of a sudden 2 weeks later, Ayton's signing with the Suns and can't be traded, and that doesn't affect anything. Those inconsistencies, like, you know, you can't put 100% stock when there's inconsistencies like that, you know. But that's the case for anybody with information. Like, I mean, even if I had sources and reported everything I heard from certain sources, I wouldn't necessarily believe it 100% from everyone, because there's going to be some information that's right and some information that's wrong. That's just the way it goes. And that's the thing, is you got to take everything with a grain of salt, and more so if it's not a guy with a track record of an Adrian Wojnarowski or Shams.
Hmm. Well, the thing with Flex is that's when I started knowing that he was kind of talking a little sideways was because that trade he mentioned, if you had the correct sources and knowledge, would know that that's not a valid trade because the Nets can't trade for Donovan Mitchell without Ben Simmons being a part of the deal as well. Now, he could have likely been traded elsewhere or part of the deal or whatever. But for the most part, when you say, oh, this is a done deal, these players are going to here, here, and here, and Aiton's going to the Nets, so you can't really make Simmons work without a bunch of other players being involved.
Or Mitchell was going to the Nets, which means they had to trade Simmons. Yeah,
Aiton was going to the Jazz.
to the
Sorry,
Jazz. Yeah.
So they were taking a $30 million contract on, so they would have had to trade a lot more than give up just Mitchell to get Ben Simmons on top of that as well. So there would have had to been a lot of other pieces in that, and I think it sounds smart, when you hear it. Oh, Mitchell to the Nets, Ayton to the Jazz, and Durant to the Suns. That's perfect. Like that makes a lot of sense. Let me just report that. But like if you don't understand the CBA fully, like you would know before you tweeted that out that it's not valid.
Yeah, I mean, if you got that information, right, you would, and say you wanted to tweet it out and leak it. I know you would have mentioned that in order to get Donovan Mitchell, the Nets would have to trade Ben Simmons. Like, right. You would have mentioned that. But, you are the smartest CBA guy I know. You've studied that thing like crazy, and I've tried to keep up myself, right? But, that's the thing is that's where it gets frustrating when I try and point that out or whatever, and then it's me being a hater or something like that. So, is what it is, man. Is what it is.
Well, yeah, and the source thing. So, the same source or one like I had the Grant thing was locked in because I had multiple people tell me stories that made everything come together that the other people were saying were correct, if that makes sense. So like I had two separate sources that both said different things, but when you combine what they said together, it confirmed the other two sources. So like I was locked in 100% on that. But one of those sources, my most trusted source, was spot on in terms of the Blazers are going after nothing but like defending guards. And like that's so you hear like Matisse Thybulle come up then, right? And then you hear in free agency we went after like Peyton and Bruce Brown. And I'm sitting here like when he told me that, I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, there's no way that's true, right?
We didn't even talk about that on stream when you
right.
heard that, right? Yeah.
Right. And I'm like,
there's no before the fact, yeah.
There's no way this is right? Like get out of here. Why would they? I mean, maybe if they got Thybulle for a second round pick, but there's no way in free agency they're going after a guard. No, that has to be wrong.
After everything Cronin had said, yeah, it made no sense. Cronin, and this is in my recap, I include like quotes from Cronin at the trade deadline, then the moves he made. And one of the quotes he had at the deadline was that he envisioned the roster being more balanced in terms of the guard and forward split at the end of the offseason. And then all of a sudden he's going after more guards after drafting a guard at 7.
Right, yeah. After the draft too, yeah, I was like, no way. Whatever. But like the same person also gave me, okay, here's what Ant and Nurk's contracts are going to be. And they were not even close, right? So, I mean, not close is a little bit of a overstatement, but they weren't the actual contract. So like that was the information I got from that same source, to your point, where I didn't just come out and say, oh, this is what's happening. We're giving Ant this much and we're giving Nurk this much, because like I was kind of questionable on that, and I didn't want to like, throw the source under the bus or whatever. But like, it's not 100%. Like no one hits 100%, even if you're like, I mean, you have people like LaMarcus Aldridge. Like, how many times did that dude change his mind in the course of a year? Probably that last year he was here, like, oh, I want to stay. This is great. And then the season just falls apart, and all of a sudden he wants out, and then even in free agency, like he has like like a change of heart and like is actually thinking about staying possibly like right up until the last minute. I mean, if you
But
believe
then
that.
but then it comes down to the Spurs and the Phoenix
The
Suns.
Suns, like who were never even in the
sucked at the
picture
time.
until then. Right.
Yeah, which made no sense.
So it's like, I mean, like even the most trusted sources can't know for sure. So like I'm still hearing from some of the people like the Blazers aren't done, watch out, and I'm like, I guarantee you they're done. Like I mean, short of a small roster move with like the end of their roster with Didi or something like that, or you know, the obviously the two-way spot that they're having the competition for, things like that. I mean, technically that means they're not done, but like in terms of a big move, they're done. They're pretty much done, regardless of what Cronin says about oh, we're not happy with the roster still. We'll still always look to improve it, all that stuff. Yes, that's true. He can always look to improve it, but another move isn't happening. I still fully believe that a ducking of the tax is the most likely scenario coming up here. And so anything to the contrary. And the other part of it is if you deal with players or like sources who are also maybe like a fan of another team or like they might allow some biases to set in. I'm not saying that's what happened.
Or if it's
here,
somebody in KD's camp, for example, that's one of the sources. And KD wants to go to Phoenix, like it's gonna have a Phoenix slant to it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, like, yeah, with in regards to the Blazers, man, I mean, they literally can't trade for Kevin Durant right now. No matter what they tried to do, there is not a single trade that you could find under the CBA that would work because contracts either aren't tradable or they can't be combined with other contracts in order to match salary. Like, it's literally impossible for the Blazers to trade for Kevin Durant. Even Eric, what's funny is even if it was possible, even if Kevin Durant's still a net up until the trade deadline and we heard like, oh, the Blazers might be after him, I would still think there's like a 0% chance because the Blazers don't do trades like that. We just don't get stuff like that. Since starting the channel, man, every stream, trade deadline, free agency, draft lottery, etc., 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 like every big stream has kind of gone, like, in regards to what the team has done, has kind of been negative. Like, the most positive big stream was we re-signed Norman Powell and got Cody Zeller on a minimum. Yay! Look how that turned out, right? We trade Norman Rocco for scraps and Cody Zeller is just, like, falls off and then is injured and now he's out of the league, right? So, dude, like, even if there was rumors that the Blazers wanted Kevin Durant, I still wouldn't believe that it's going to happen. Until it happens, I would still think, yeah, it's not happening. It's not happening. That's why it's so funny to me when my guy Gabe, Suns Valley podcast in here in chat, tries to say, man, yeah, like it always comes back to like, you think Portland should get him. Like, dude, I absolutely do not think Portland is, in my lifetime, probably ever going to trade him for a player like that, man. I am pessimistic in regards to that. The thing is, I don't get my hopes up too much for stuff like this, and therefore I'm maybe not as disappointed, right? Like, I was disappointed in the draft lottery, but, I mean, what did I say right after it was confirmed that the Blazers have the 7th overall pick? Because I watched this back editing the video that I'm dropping later tonight or tomorrow. I said, this is what it's like to be a Blazers fan. This is what happens as Blazer fans. Like, that's the way it is. So, yeah. But Gabe says that's why you should be happy for us. Bro, I would have been happier for you guys if things played out a little differently than they have. But because you sat here calling me a hater when I've just been trying to speak my mind, all of a sudden I don't really want that to happen. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like that makes sense, man. Like, Eric talked about it earlier, just the way some Suns fans have acted about this stuff, and like, I don't know. I don't want it. I'm not a Suns fan, man. I don't want it to happen. Like, I'm not a Suns fan. If that makes me a Suns hater because I'm not a Suns fan, sure, go ahead, man. But it's just not the way it is.
So some people in chat, Blevins Enthusiast and Alex Wolf, thank you, mentioned that we were pretty happy about the Jeremy Grant trade, so that was good.
Yeah, well, that was like a reaction stream. I wasn't really counting those because I was decently happy with the Rocco trade too.
The Nance one as well.
Yeah, it's just like every big stream, like big streams are the trade deadline, the draft, free agency, and then the draft lottery this year. Those haven't gone well. So, I mean, I just don't expect the Blazers to ever pull off a move like getting a Kevin Durant. Apparently that makes me a Blazers hater.
Well, I mean, honestly, Dame literally post a picture of Kevin Durant and him in Blazers uniforms. You would think, if anything, that would have been like, oh my God, we're getting Kevin Durant, let's go!
Yeah, and of course I had to make a video on it.
Yeah.
I made a video on it knowing that it would get 10K views, and I was excited about that, but I think in that video I said that I didn't expect it to happen, and probably not to get your hopes up. Honestly, I don't remember anything about that video at this point. It's all kind of a blur with as many videos I put out, but I never sat here like...
If I remember right, I think you basically tempered everyone's expectations that we weren't getting him. So, that's the opposite of Durant saying he wants you.
He's saying that Dame wanting KD is the opposite of KD wanting Phoenix.
But
I
don't care. Like, it would have given, like, if we were acting like some of the other people, we would, like, from that point on, we would still be like, oh, we're going to get KD. He's just waiting until players become eligible to trade. 28 days till Jeremy Grant's eligible to be traded, and we can finally maybe scrounge up enough contracts to make it work, Like, it's just, that's why he hasn't been traded yet, because we just have to wait for Jeremy Grant's contract to be eligible to be traded, because we couldn't combine the trade exception, but now that we have a contract for the trade exception, we can combine that. So yeah, once that's available, we just have to throw in Jeremy Grant, Josh Hart, Winslow and Nas. That gets us there. I think we have just enough to sign minimums, then 3 minimums or we only need 2 minimums in that case now that we signed Jabari. So yeah, we're all over it, man. Just wait. You just got to wait 28 more days.
Yeah. Here's what's funny is I don't know if Gabe knows this. It was reported that Giannis, if he hadn't stayed in Milwaukee, his first choice would have been Portland because he would have wanted to play with Dame. Mm-hmm. That was reported. Who knows if that's true or not, right? Take everything with a grain of salt. I forget who reported that.
It came out after he had signed the extension.
And it came out after, yeah.
But
I mean, I'm not sitting here like, oh, maybe if the Bucks suck, then Giannis will demand a trade here. Like, I don't know. Like, Giannis is never going to be in a Blazer uniform, unfortunately. I would love Giannis in a Blazer uniform. As I said earlier, that's one of my favorite non-Blazers players in the league, and he and Dame would be fun to watch together. But, I mean... like, that's the thing is when players are on long-term contracts, if Giannis tomorrow said, I want to be a Portland Trailblazer, I want to get traded to the Blazers, and we had, like, the package that we could trade for him, which we don't. We can't legally trade for him. He makes too much right now. Like, even if we had the package to trade for him, I wouldn't think it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Like, it could be in our laps like that, and I still wouldn't be confident in it happening, especially if it was, like, a package where it was, like, Jeremy Grant, Josh Hart, and 4 future first-round picks, which I think is kind of maybe it's a little bit worse than the Suns package. I don't know, but I feel like that's equivalent. I would not be confident in that package getting it done for somebody like Giannis. Giannis has more trade value, but in the end, man, like, yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be cool, and if that report's true, yeah, it'd be dope if a superstar said he wanted to come to Portland, because that doesn't happen, and I know that doesn't really happen with Phoenix, except apparently our 6-time whatever all-star LaMarcus Aldridge wanted to go there when they sucked instead of staying in Portland, so it has kind of happened to us before. But, yeah, I mean, I get it, but you can't let it, like, I would say you can't let it determine what your opinions on it are. That's all I'd say.
This all ties back to KD, because if he just beats Giannis and they don't win a title, maybe he does ask out and he'd be a Blazer right now, man. Screw Kevin Durant.
It's all, yeah. I mean, shoot, maybe. But Giannis isn't that type of guy.
No,
though.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like,
joking.
And that's the thing. Like, yeah, I'd want Giannis to want to come here if that happens, but I respect the hell out of him for I mean, they went through adversity in the bubble. I respect the hell out of him for taking that adversity head on and winning a championship in Milwaukee. That's dope as hell. That was cool to see, man. Like, yeah, it came at the expense of the Phoenix Suns, which I was rooting for the Phoenix Suns through the Western Conference, Western Conference playoffs that year. You know, like, it was cool to see Suns versus Bucks. Because here's the thing. For years, I said, if the league has more parity, it'll be in a better spot. And people said, oh, well, ratings are better when you have big market super teams, yada, 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 right? And then Phoenix and Milwaukee makes the finals, and, like, ratings were really solid. Really solid. And I watched pretty much that entire finals, whereas Cavs versus Warriors for the 5th year in a row, I didn't watch that at all, man. So I was happy after seeing the same two teams, LeBron versus Steph, for 5 years in a row. I was happy as hell to see Suns versus Bucks, man. That was dope, right? Mm-hmm. So I respect that. And I respect what the Suns have done, okay? They took a team that was terrible for 10 years, added Chris Paul as to their young core, and made an NBA Finals. That's dope as hell, man. I don't root against the Suns. I just would personally like there to be parity in the Western Conference next year. I don't want any one team in any one conference to be too stacked. Okay? If Kevin Durant ends up getting traded for Mikal Bridges, I think, honestly, you could probably just pencil in the Suns in the finals next year. Yes, I know the Golden State Warriors this, the Golden State Warriors that. I would honestly just take a Sharpie and put Suns in the finals next year if they got KD for Mikal. I don't want that to be the case with any team. Okay? It's not just the Suns. I don't want the Warriors to become stacked. I don't want them to have KD. I like having parity in the playoffs, where you go into the playoffs and you have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea if it's going to be a Bucks versus Suns finals, or if the Suns might lose in the second round to Luka Doncic and a bunch of role players. Like, that uncertainty as an NBA fan is fun for me. So that's literally the main reason why I don't want Kevin Durant to go to the Suns, is because you're adding a top 5 player to a 64-win team. And I've enjoyed the parity of the last couple of years compared to the crap we got where it was Cavs versus Warriors every single year.
And I was just looking at, I forgot who it was, but someone listed their power rankings in the West. Blazers 10th, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that.
But I mean, you can't really argue too much either way with the teams outside the Lakers getting overrated. But like, I was just looking at these teams. It's like, oh, I wonder who he has like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. And it's like, yeah, I could see that. And it's like, man, it's exciting because, like, if the Pelicans put it all together, if the Timberwolves are good, if the Nuggets are healthy, if the Mavs new additions work out for them, like, there's a lot of good teams, man. It's going to be so fun seeing like which teams like rise to the top out of this and which teams like have a step back year and stuff like that. And if some of these teams like the Lakers and Blazers, who had a down year last year, can get back into the mix and stuff like that. So I'm really excited about watching all that. And I agree, if KD gets traded to a team like the Suns, who don't have to give up their 2 best players or whatever to get him, then that's going to kind of put a damper on things. Yeah, I mean, I'll still watch, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. 82-game season where it's like every essentially the top 6 teams are all in the same spot going into the playoffs. Obviously, seeding matters. It gives you an easier path and whatnot. You can withstand injuries a little bit more. That's what you play the 82 regular season games for. But in the end, you're talking about 1 through 6 seed don't have to play their way in through the play-in tournament, and they get a 7-game first-round series to try and win, right? In a format like that, you need storylines. And when you have a bunch of teams that conceivably have a chance to go on a deep run, I mean, the Mavericks just came off a season where they made the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, they lost to Golden State, but they didn't have a ton around Luka Doncic. Their second best player was Jalen Brunson, man. But they still made the Western Conference Finals. And you have the Memphis Grizzlies doing what they did, and they ended up dealing with some injury issues, but they pushed the Warriors to 6 games right? And Ja Morant breakout star. When you have a bunch of teams that conceivably have a chance, all of a sudden, all the storylines with all those teams matter a little bit more, right? You got the Minnesota Timberwolves with their experiment. I mean, that's a dark horse team in the West that if they can figure it out defensively with Gobert there, I mean, maybe they could go on a shocking run to the NBA Finals. You can't completely rule that out. In other years, it would be, oh, well, what they did doesn't matter at all, and they probably shouldn't have done it because they're not beating the Golden State Warriors in the next 3 years, so why did they do that?
The Warriors have KD. That sucks.
Yeah. So I love parity in the NBA. It makes it enjoyable. It makes storylines matter more. It makes it easier to get invested as an NBA fan. I wasn't an NBA fan until the past couple of years. Like through the Cavs Warriors days, I was not an NBA fan. I was a Blazer fan. I was not an NBA fan.
Mm-hmm.
So,
for those questioning Max, the Lakers fan, he's the most like humble, down to earth Lakers fan that's humanly possible. So don't clown on him. He's a cool guy. And
Max hasn't said one like mean or trolly or trash talking thing to us ever, man. Like Max is cool. We appreciate you, Max. We're all like we can have, no matter how we feel about the team or whatever, I'm open to having fans of any fan base in here. Like Max, you're cool, man, and we got some cool fans from other fan bases that help make it. I mean, it makes it fun when we play a certain team and we could talk about the game. Alex Wolf is in here; he's a Cavs fan, so it's always cool to have fans of other organizations in the stream chat. So don't be mean to them just because they're a fan of a certain fan base, because Max didn't do that to us.
Yeah, he was joking about KD for Westbrook. Not one person, even Laker fans, think that's a possibility. And they think they could trade for anyone. And his comment before that was, I would like that Dame and Giannis would be a dangerous duo. So, like, how does that...
Yeah. Exactly. That's the thing. If I ever see somebody trolling, which I kind of have to do this as the streamer, but if I ever see somebody trolling or like talking trash or something, I'll scroll up to see if they've said anything else, man. A Lakers fan saying they would enjoy seeing Dame and Giannis together in Portland, like, that's a pass from me. Because a lot of you Laker fans will be, well, if Giannis ends up with Dame in Portland, Dame and Giannis should demand a trade to the Lakers. Anyway. Blazer fan Ebby says it is really nice to have other fans of teams in chat. Yeah, I mean, fans that are, just come here to hang out, There's obviously, during post-game streams, there's obviously fans that always come in to completely trash the team, and Blazer fans and whatnot, that kind of sucks. But fans that come in here just to hang out, have a good time, and discuss ball, that's always fun for me.
Yeah, DC in chat, doesn't really comment, but it says, Grizzlies fan here. I follow channels of other teams all over the league. Love your content. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Appreciate it, DCC, and that makes me happy as somebody who does content to know that I can make content pretty much only around the Blazers. We do discuss some NBA stuff and have our NBA, free agency streams and whatnot, but most of the time we're talking about Blazer stuff, but other fans still want to come in and hang out with us and watch our stuff. That's a compliment to me. That appreciates it. Or that. Sorry, I just read Salty's comment. I messed up my words. I appreciate it, man. It means I'm doing a good job if there's fans from other fan bases that can watch our stuff and enjoy it.
And well, I mean, honestly, their channel, Salty and Gabe, that's the perfect example. I mean, none of us were Suns fans or cared about the Suns at all, and then all of a sudden, I know
more about the Suns than any other team in the league.
All of a sudden, Gabe has this channel, and like all of a sudden we like actively rooted for the Suns for a period until they got a little out of pocket this summer. But no, just kidding. Just kidding. But no, honestly, like, I mean, those guys are awesome. Their streams are fun to watch, even if they, like you got annoyed, I think, earlier today.
Yeah.
Bit, but
I mean, and I know I've annoyed Gabe with stuff, man, but that's the thing. I'm not going to sit here and I'll sit here and call out what Gabe says about me and say that I think he should be calling me a hater, man. And he knows that. So, It's all in good fun. What's funny is before this KD stuff, Gabe was like, man, it'd be fun to play you guys in a playoff series. And I was like, I don't know if that would be a good thing, man. It would make for some phenomenal content, but yeah, I don't know how that would go, cause we have more Suns fans in here than probably any other fan base, and vice versa for their channel. Man, it'd be like a civil war almost.
Yeah, but as long as the Blazers win, I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, Taylor, I don't know what stream are you talking about, man? The one earlier tonight. It was a little feisty. It was a little feisty earlier tonight, but I always just try and bring logic, and then I'll troll a little bit. If I feel like I'm being trolled, I'll return the favor. But you know, it's fun being on the other end in chat. Oh, Gray, super chat. Thank you, Gray. Gray had a super chat. I wanted to make sure to finish talking about this KD stuff before this topic changed, because now we're going to take Blazer questions to end off the stream. Shout out Gray Hughes Investigates, $10 dono. Says, topic change. Top 5 Blazers IQ/talent, and longevity doesn't count. His list is Sabonis, Walton, Clyde, Dame, and Pippen in terms of the top 5 Blazers that have a mix of IQ and talent. Thank you, Gray, for the $10 dono. Here's the thing. I don't have the experience watching the Blazers that Eric does, so I always feel like I'm just at a deficit in
you can
these
just say you're not as old as Eric.
Yeah, well,
I don't care.
I was trying to be nice, man. I was trying to. You like my PR spin on that? Thank you, Gray, for the $10 dono. Do you agree with that top 5, Eric?
I mean, it's hard to argue with that list. I would say Buck was a pretty smart player. Yeah, Sabonis, Walton obviously would be on that list. I include Pippen. Yeah, Dame Smart. Clyde. Yeah, I mean it's hard to argue if you're talking about talent and IQ. But yeah. I'm trying to think of obvious omissions to that. I mean it's a pretty good list. Maybe Lionel Hollins.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, obviously, he became a coach after he played. Obviously, and he was part of the championship team.
Steve Blake.
I don't know about the talent part of that, IQ-wise, maybe. But
yeah, if we're talking IQ-wise, you got to put Andre Miller up there. If it's just IQ,
yeah,
Andre Miller has a good, like any dude with that dude's utter lack of athleticism and shooting at the point guard spot that can still get the job done the way he does has to have insane basketball IQ. Andre Miller would be up there in the IQ department. What do you think about this? Blevins Enthusiast says Mario Hezonja for IQ.
Again, it was IQ/talent, not just IQ.
Well, if we're talking about the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have the IQ enough to not do some crazy lay-ins and just dunk the ball or lay it in normally. So, yeah.
He was Ben Simmons before Ben Simmons with that. But he would still, instead of like passing it off for no reason when he had a dunk, he'd like, yeah, it was the good old jelly, like up and under when he's wide open and 6'9" next to the rim. I don't miss the days of Mario Hezonja at all.
Yeah. There's someone that was kind of Tyson Chandler-esque in his run where, like, early in their career, I thought they were, like, a really dumb player. And towards the end of their career, they got by with a lot of smart play and would, like, turned out to be more of a thinking player. And that's Marcus Camby.
Yeah.
Like that guy completely transformed his game as he got older. Wasn't like great when he was older, but like did a lot of stuff. Yeah, so completely respect his turnaround as Tyson Chandler went from being like a kid who was right out of high school who didn't really know how to play the game very well, and by the time 2011 rolled around for that Dallas championship, he was like a guy you could depend on to be your leader on defense and stuff like that.
Yeah. I missed that jump shot for him, man.
I didn't do that like on purpose. Like I totally forgot about this, but the one time I do talk about Marcus Camby, that tree horde guy isn't here, man.
Oh, he loves himself some Marcus Camby, man. Where is he at?
I don't know.
You know who has to go on top of that list actually?
Who?
Carmelo Anthony. There, I just said that for Block Boy wherever he is.
Yeah. Gray says, "You guys ever watch the bonus video of Young? Sabonis is insane. He held the ball like a golf ball. Yeah,
He held the ball like Eric holds the ball.
They said him holding a basketball was the equivalent of an average person holding a softball, and that's insane. Like it just mind-boggling to think about, like how your hands could be that big.
Like bigger than Kawhi's?
I think so. I don't know.
That's insane, man. I mean, imagine being able to hold the basketball like a softball the way you'd be. And the fact that he could still shoot as well as he does, and same thing for Kawhi, with a hand size that big is impressive. Because think about trying to like shoot a softball on a hoop that's like a Nerf hoop. It would be so hard to consistently be accurate shooting a softball. Like, think about it rolling off your hands, man. Like, that's the thing. Guys with bigger hands is a lot harder for them to shoot accurately.
That's why, like, Shaq always struggled with free throws and stuff.
Yeah, well, his form was atrocious, too. But, like, how are you that bad at free throws and you don't make any improvements to your form your entire career? That just baffles me. Like, I guess he was incapable of it, I guess, but that baffles me, man. Maybe it's because there's so many bigs nowadays that can shoot and knock down free throws at an okay clip, but never understood that.
Speaking of shooting, if you follow me on Twitter, you know this already, but House of Highlights somehow got a hold of some video of this guy who plays... I've played with him like hundreds of times.
Oh, yeah.
And he plays at the 24 Hour in Hillsborough. And he's got, yes, the ugliest form of all time, but the video does not do him justice. That guy, like, if you leave him open for three, will make like 33s in a row. It's like insane. Yeah.
That would just piss me off, man. Honestly. Playing a guy whose form is just, he literally like catapults it like way behind his head and throws it at the rim.
Mm-hmm.
For a guy to make shots doing that would just piss me off as somebody who has spent so many years like meticulously trying to craft my shooting form.
I mean, that guy literally played every single day. Like, he was always at the gym doing nothing but shooting threes, so it doesn't really matter your form if you're that dedicated to it. But
I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing I'll say about shooting. You can be a good shooter with bad form because all shooting comes down to is being able to replicate the same shot each time. Now, the best shooters can replicate the same shot in like different positions, like running to the left off the dribble, or like running to the right, catch and shoot, or like catch and shoot running straight into a shot, standing still. Like, Steph is phenomenal and the best shooter ever because he is an elite shooter in any type of situation, right? But at the core, it's you're replicating the same shot every time. Good form makes it easier to replicate your shot, but you can still replicate your shot with bad form. It just takes a lot more reps and a lot more work, and it might not have the overall shooting upside as if you had a cleaner, more concise shot with less movement. So, with that being said, there's no like perfect shooting form for anyone. It's just how can you get a shooter to be able to replicate his shot the same way every time.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor says, Tori, I just want to know why you keep cutting the best hair on YouTube. I'm trying to see you in your full grown form. Man, my hair was starting to curl on the sides, dude. It will be straight for 3 inches, then it'll start to curl. It's awful. I hate it. I think it looks bad when it starts to curl, man. So I left the top the same length and I cut the sides, and I'm enjoying it. It just feels weird. Feels weird to like, I don't know. And I need to gel it more because it's like, it's falling. But I like this, man. I left the top just for you, and now I can wear a hat and look like clean cut on the sides. It's very versatile. I'm all about versatility. Anyway. Eric apparently has nothing to contribute to this conversation.
I cut my hair. It's very similar. It's just my hair is shorter on top.
Yeah. Anyway, anything else, Eric? Or any other questions from chat you guys want to ask us? Get them in before we sign off here. But anything else you wanted to touch upon for this stream?
Hey, Taylor. No, that's pretty much it.
Taylor's going to clip that. That's going to be his ringtone. Yeah. That should be your ringtone, Taylor.
Man, Blevins enthusiast. Yeah, so for probably 20 years, I just used the blade of a hair trimmer and cut my hair free. And I don't really care what it looks like. But yeah, you get people like Tori when we meet, he thinks I'm bald or whatever. And so a couple years ago at the start of COVID, I had to prove to everyone I could grow hair, and my wife actually asked if I wouldn't shave it like I used to completely. So I still keep some on top for her. But
I changed honestly, that man's hair game just like Taylor's changed mine.
Honestly, I don't really care. I just hate when it gets long on the sides, so I just like having it as short as possible. And the shorter it is, the less maintenance, and it's easy to wash and get in and out of the shower and stuff. So I really don't care about having to comb it or anything, so the shorter it is, the better in my mind.
Yeah, see, and this is still something that's not, still like something a little flashy, but it is easier to maintain. Mm-hmm. The thing is, I would be willing to have hair down to my shoulders if it was straight the whole way or if it was curly the whole way. When it's straight half the way and then it starts curling tight, it just looks super weird, man. So that's the problem, is it's like 4 inches of straight, then it starts curling like crazy, and it just looks like it makes absolutely no sense, man. So yeah, that's why when it gets to a point where it starts to curl on the sides, I gotta cut it. I gotta do something different. But normally I just blend it, man. But I decided, I'm going undercut, right? Just pure undercut, and I'm going bold with it. And I was like, oh, this could be a bad decision. I like it. I'm feeling good.
Man, there was the week I was gone, that Thursday stream, you had this long strand of hair that kept coming through your hat, and it was very distracting the whole stream.
It was distracting me, man. I kept having to, because that's the thing. I know it's distracting for people watching. You just got this stupid strand of hair, just no, I know, and that's the thing is when I'm streaming. I'll check it.
Yeah, you would adjust it, and then a second later, you're like, "No, it's right back. It's falling back in the spot."
At that point, all I could do was make jokes about it, because that's the thing. I know if I'm readjusting it that much, that people are definitely noticing that. So at that point, I might as well just laugh at it. Instead of I can't play it off anymore at that point. So I needed a haircut, man. I had to, I didn't want to distract chat from our phenomenal basketball points that we love to make or anything, right? So had to, but now I just jealous. I wouldn't even wear hats. That's the thing. After a new haircut, you won't see a hat probably for the next 2 weeks, but then after that, you'll probably see one every day.
Yeah, I don't wear a hat very often, but I always usually wear one on stream. I don't know, just feel comfortable streaming with a hat on.
Yeah, and at some point, someday, we'll have Blazers Uprise hats for you guys and for Eric and me, and we'll get the merch relaunched. We can actually, have you ever seen those YouTube channels where they have merch below the video, Eric?
Yeah.
We can actually do that, so that's what I'm working on right now. Is trying to, but it has to be through Shopify, and then I have to worry about, can we still connect it to the website and all that stuff. So it's a big process, but I have a couple cool concepts. I don't think Krish is watching right now, but I'm gonna ask Krish to help with one of them, and then give him the shirt for free, and maybe a split of the money off of it. But I got a really cool design in mind that I think Krish could knock out of the park. That would just be really sick. I probably won't launch that in our first merch launch. It will probably come in our second, but the idea would be to do seasonal merch launches and make sure to have print providers that aren't too small. That was the problem with our first merch launch, is a double XL would be a large. So that was a problem when people would order. I'd tell them to order a size bigger and it'd still be too small. Trevin had that issue. So, anyway,
what's up, Damani?
What's up, Damani? Anything else you wanted to talk about in the stream?
I answered your question in chat, but so Katie asked to either trade him or fire both Steve Nash and Sean Marks.
Yep.
Who he picked to be coach and who the GM has done everything. We talked about it for the first hour or so on the stream. So
yeah, we got you. The first hour we ranted about it, man, and then talked like destinations or whatnot. So if you're just joining us and you want to see our thoughts on this whole Brooklyn Nets Kevin Durant situation, just rewind to the start of the stream and you can watch it back. Other than that,
it's Ice Wallacom's birthday, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Ice You almost got me, bro.
I said it. I don't care.
Eric said it. Yeah. we had one of those in the mailbag. Did you catch that?
No.
Chat? We had somebody like that. I wonder if it's the same person. His first name was Mike. I'm not gonna say his last name.
Yeah, that was definitely on purpose.
But yeah, I laughed about it when I said his name in the mailbag, but I only said the first name. I just didn't know how many people caught that, but that was funny. Anyway, you almost got me. I said, yeah, I didn't say it though. You know, it's just people trying to get clips of us saying that. You know how it is. Anyway, anything. Damani, no, it was a little bit more creative than that. Anything else, Eric?
Alex, we don't know anything about Sexton. Who knows? I think at this point, maybe he'll just take the qualifying offer. I don't know.
Yeah, Damani, the last name started with an L. That's all I'll say. We'll be live again on Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Gonna have this recap out tonight or tomorrow. It just took longer to edit, but it's gonna be like a 30-minute video. But it's gonna include a lot of edits and pictures and stream highlights and quotes and whatnot. I feel like it should be a pretty entertaining video, and I think it's really gonna be really well put together. I recorded it at a different place too, so it's just kind of a unique sort of video that I'm looking forward to putting out. So definitely stay tuned for that over on the main channel. If you only found us through our second channel, this is our second channel. Our main channel, just search Blazers Uprise without the live, and that's where we drop videos and post game streams during the season. And then we still stream here twice a week, Mondays, Thursdays. Any final words from Mr. Brandt?
Once again, if you haven't heard me say this, if you're interested in potentially playing basketball some point in the next couple weeks, let me know on Discord or Twitter if you're in the Portland area and want to meet up.
Yep. I want to get an indoor run. I keep saying it, but I went out of town past couple days and I've just been resetting a little bit. I do want to get a pickup run in the next 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
An indoor pickup run legitimate. So I know I keep talking about it and we haven't done it yet, but it's still something that I want to do for sure. So just stay tuned with that. But yeah, Eric, you played outdoors with Connor, Smog, Jackson. I forget who else was there. A couple of our mods. So, we can do outdoor runs easily.
Play wasn't exactly the right word, but we attempted to play, I guess.
Attempted to play.
It was fun though, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it'd probably have to be on a Saturday whenever we do runs. I got a Sunday Rec League now. That's pretty high level. It's funny, the guy that started that Sunday Rec team, he didn't know what to put as the name, so he just did Blazers. I was like, man, you should have put Blazers Uprise. I'll sponsor it. So next season I might offer him $5 to change the name to Blazers Uprise. But we're 4-1 right now. Got a pretty good Sunday League team. And are you not playing Rec anymore, Eric?
Not right now. My next Rec League starts up I think beginning of September, so
we need Rec League updates with Eric and Tori. That's what we need. But yeah, anyway, would definitely be down to play. Hopefully on a cooler day because it's been so hot lately. But then again, like I don't have any AC here, so I'll probably always be down to get out and play outdoors. But would like to get running a gym soon.
And you successfully made it over a bridge, so maybe there's that's stressful.
Dude. Oh man, we gotta start talking about my anxiety when I'm trying to sign off.
I'm just kidding.
If you guys don't know, I don't like heights at all. So I went over the 405 bridge the other day and handled it better than, I handled it well, okay? So I was proud of myself because it's stressful for me. Anyway, that's all I'm going to talk about it. We're going to sign off, and we're going to catch you guys on Thursday. And that's it.
Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Peace out. Go Blazers.